This is Lesson 1, the Dirty Truth Part 1. In this lesson, students are going to learn how to do observations of different kinds of soils. The tool that they'll be using today is a hand lens, and you're going to want to start by demonstrating the correct way and having students practice using this tool before they're actually using it on the soils. You'll want to let them know that there are 3 things that can move while you're using a hand lens. You just don't want to move more than one part at a time. They can move their eyes, they can move the lens, or they can move the object that they are trying to observe. After they've had some time to explore with the hand lenses, they can try to read the print, the very small print in the bottom of their student workbook to make sure that they're using the tool correctly. Once students have had a chance to practice with the hand lens and feel comfortable with them, you're going to go ahead and start with today's lesson and making their first observations. The first thing you'll want to do is to pass out some small cups of sand and have them use the hand lenses to observe what they're seeing in there. They will probably make observations that the sand looks like very small rocks or tiny rocks, and have them also make observations about the different colors they're seeing, different sizes they're seeing. Again, we want them to really use very precise language and make good observations as they're doing this. Okay. After they've made observations about the sand, they're going to write that in their student workbook. Again, this is incorporating the English Language Arts and Writing Standards, as they are not only making these observations, but putting those into writing as well. The next thing you'll do is you will pass out the humus. Don't tell them the name right away. Just pass this out as another type of soil and allow them some time to explore this and look at it. They may want to move it around and look at different parts inside of it. After that, you can talk about what humus is and the different observations that they made of this type of soil. Again, they'll want to record that in their book. Last, you're going to give them a sample of clay for them to look at and make their observations with. What they will most likely notice is that the individual particles are so fine they can't see individual particles. They can see some small clumps, but not really individual particles of clay. They would need a much stronger microscope than what they have available. Okay. Let students know that now that they've made observations on the 3 different types of soil that we'll be using for this unit, that next they're going to do some tests that soil scientists do as well. These are actual tests that scientists use to determine the different properties of soils. The first one that they're going to do is called a smear test. So they will need a small amount of water. And what they will do is, using their student workbook, they're going to get their finger wet, get a little bit of the soil, and then smear that in the box in their workbook. Then what they'll do is they will write their observations about this. Depending on how wet their fingers get, they may need to let these workbooks dry a little bit before they put them away. They'll do the same thing with the humus and the sand and make their observations in there as well. After they've had a chance to work and do this, then you can have a group discussion comparing and contrasting the different samples and the different smears that they had. The next test that students will do today is to do a ball test with each type of the soils. They will need to save these for tomorrow, so just make sure when they do them that they have a place to store them overnight. For this, they're going to make each one of the soils with a little bit of water. They're going to make it into a small ball. Some of the soils that will be very easy with, others that will be pretty difficult. Just encourage them to persevere and keep trying. They may need to experiment with the size of the ball that they're trying to make, and just let them know that some soils do this more easily than others. They will need these soils for experiments in lesson 2, so please encourage them when they are making the balls not to use up all of the soil sample that they have. So I'm going to demonstrate this with the clay. So they'll just want to take a little bit of that, add some water, And one of the things that they're observing is whether or not this is easy to make into a ball. Have them do the best job that they can with it. And then once they get it into the ball, they'll just need to set it in their cup so that it won't be disturbed overnight while it's drying. You will need at least one night for it to dry before you get to the next lesson. More than that is fine, but you'll need at least one night. You won't be able to do that part of lesson 2 immediately following this. The last part, they will do this as well with the humus and the sand. They'll make those as well. Okay. The last part that you will do for lesson 1 is introducing a test that will take quite some time, where students are going to practice growing seeds and testing which of the 3 soils is the most efficient for growing plants. So what students will need to do is to take a growing tube. Depending on your class, you may want to fill these ahead of time for them or have the students do it themselves. They can do that using the tasting spoons. They'll put a little bit of the soil into the tube. And then you'll want to demonstrate for the students how to use the pipette. It may not be something that they've used before. Remind them that the first thing they need to do is squeeze the air out of the bowl, then put it in and let go so that it will get some water in it. And then they can squeeze that into the growing tube to add some water to the soil. And then you will put 2 marigold seeds into each of the growing tubes. You'll be observing these over several days or weeks, so be sure that they are somewhere where the students can have access to them to observe them throughout this unit, and make sure that students are watering these consistently so that they will continue to grow and it will be a good test. Students do have a place in their student workbook where they will make daily observations. You'll want them to do the first observation today with the date, and for each soil sample, they will need to record what they see. They can do that with pictures, words, or both. Tailor that to the needs of your specific students.